So today we're going to look at breaking down the EHC needs assessment case law. And the reason why I thought it'd be good to have a look at case law, because it is something that can become really handy when we need and need to be quoted when we are facing tribunal for whatever part of stage we're at, whether that's the EHC needs assessment, refusal to issue, contents, etc. And rather than just do a big webinar about all case laws and overwhelm everybody, I thought we'd do little small chunk ones in the different areas. And the first one we're looking at is the EHC needs assessment case law. So Cambridgeshire County Council versus VLJ. So the first tier tribunal needs to decide that a young person or child may, and I've capitalised that for a reason, because when we are doing it, we are looking at the word may. We do not definitively have to prove that there definitely is the need for support and provision. We are proving that there's a possibility that a child or young person may need support and provision. That is at a level that a school or other setting cannot deliver without an EHCP. So this case law basically concretes that fact of the that we are looking at what a may need support, what a child, young person may need in support and provision that is at a level that a school or other setting cannot deliver. And we're not saying, like I said, definitely cannot deliver, that it is definitely at a level a school can't do. We're not looking that the child definitely has needs and provision. We're looking at the point that in all possibilities there is a chance that the child has needs provision, and that provision is at a level that a school or other setting cannot deliver without an EHCP. The legal test for refusing to an EHC needs assessment is very, very low. Buckinghamshire County Council versus HW. So when considering if they should assess, they must consider if it may, so again we've got the word may, be necessary for provision to be delivered through an EHCP. When making a decision, the LA must not just look at the present situation, but must consider any future changes that may be coming up, like phase transfers. And this is really, really important, because when we go through each stage of education and when we're doing these phase transfers, every single step is huge. So every time we transfer from one year group to another, so like when we go to reception year 1, year 2, they are changes. They are big changes. They're not necessarily little changes either, but they are changes. But there is some sort of similarity about the school setting. It's their same school, it's similar teachers, the other teachers are still in the setting. You are probably going to go to toilets very similar to the ones you had, or even the same ones you was using last year. So it's not as big as we would be looking when we're changing schools and changing phases. Also, how the school day works is very different from one phase to another. In particular, and a good example of this is when we're transferring from primary to secondary. So primary is done within one class. It's very rare that primary school children go to different classes. They might go to different areas like a cooking room or a RT room, but on the whole they spend most of the time within the same class with the same teachers and the same group of children. When we go to secondary, they move around all day. So they don't stay in one class. They go from one class to another class to another class to another class. All different teachers. Even if the support staff can be different, the children in the class can be different depending on what set they're in for what subject, and how each individual school works. The level of work is different and harder. The expectations are different, and that there's more expected. So there's lots of different things that we have to look at, and what a child might cope with and is doing okay with, and the needs are not impacted to the point where a school can't provide it in primary, might be a whole different ball game in secondary. And also what we find, because of all of that change, because of all that independence and what is being expected and looked at in secondary, there's a lot more that a secondary school cannot do to support a child, whereas a primary school might be able to do it. So all of these factors must be taken into consideration when we're looking at a needs assessment. And this case law just confirms all that we cannot ignore any impending changes and any big transitions that are coming up. MC versus Somerset County Council. So EHCP may be necessary to enforce a child's young person's rights when a school could provide the provision that a child young person needs, but however they are unable or even refuse to provide the provision. So there are situations where technically a child or young person's provision might not be above what a school could provide. However, if they didn't have an EHCP, their rights are not protected, and the school's either unable to, for whatever reason, or refusing to provide provision. Sometimes children need the protection of an EHCP to ensure their rights are there and they are supported correctly. And this is what that provision, this is what this case law is talking about. That there's not just about an assessment being necessary if a child's way and above. It might be that there's situations where we've got to protect a child's rights, and an EHCP is the only way to do that.